Welcome to this webinar. This is should be a short webinar about a smaller update to pdfToolbox 8.1, but I think there are a few features in there that deserve to be featured in their own webinar that could be very, very useful. So we decided to make a small update. Let's get started with this. So what are we talking about? pdfToolbox 8.1, and there are actually 3 topics on my list. The first one is soft proofing for multi-channel PDFs. The second one is some spot color niceties. You'll see that it's very geeky, but very, very nice. And then the third point is perhaps the highlight of this webinar. And I won't tell you what it is yet, but it's called libraries on here. We'll get to that at the end of this webinar. So let's start with the section on multi-channel. What we are talking about here is an ISO standard called pdfX5N. We already talked about this standard for pdfToolbox 8 because in pdfToolbox 8, in the first release of 8, we introduced support to create pdfX5N files. So basically, the ability for pdfToolbox to use a multi-channel profile and convert a CMYK document into that multi-channel color space. What are we thinking about here? You're thinking about workflows like CMYK plus red, CMYK plus green, orange, violet. You have a whole range of these wider gamut color spaces, and we see them particularly either in large formats or more and more actually also digital print, more common digital print, where, for example, things like CMYK plus red are very popular for some devices. And if you have a good multi-channel profile and a profile that you would create with any tool that can create multi-channel profiles, ColorLogic Copra is one of them. If you have such a multi-color profile for your digital device, for example, then pdfToolbox 8 gave you the possibility to convert an incoming CMYK document into a document with that multi-channel profile. What is new in 8.1 is that pdfToolbox Desktop now also allows soft proofing with those profiles. So if I have a pdfX5N file, then I can preview them correctly in pdfToolbox using the profile. So what actually happens is that that profile that is in there, in that pdfX5N file, is used to internally render the file, and that file is then rendered using the monitor profile to get a preview on screen. So if you have a calibrated monitor, this can give you a very good colorimetrically correct preview of those documents. And this is a little bit hard to demonstrate in a GoToMeeting session, of course, because, well, first of all, my monitor is not calibrated and GoToMeeting is far from calibrated. But let me try to show you some things in here. And first of all, and I'll just use this. I didn't want to use this one. I wanted to use this one. I'll use this document, and we have a fix-up in pdfToolbox Desktop since version 8 called Convert to pdfX5N, and that uses a 7-color indigo profile. Of course, this is just an example profile. If you really have an HP Indigo machine, then you should create a proper profile for your machine. But if I use Analyze and Fix on this, and we give this a different name, then it will convert that file into it's still working on that, into a proper pdfX5N file. It tells you so at the bottom of the screen. It also tells you that that profile indeed was embedded. And I wanted to show something else. So if I have that file and we go look at the individual separations, then you'll be able to see that it indeed took some of that CMYK that I had initially and it moved that to the green, the orange, and the violet plate. So that tells you that those separations are there. You actually also see in pdfToolbox how many square centimeters and what the percentage is for each of those additional colors in that profile. So that also gives you a good indication of the fact that those inks were indeed moved to there. Now, what will happen is that now in pdfToolbox 8.1 is that that profile is actually correctly used to preview the file. So I can preview what that will give. I can also preview what I would get if I use a different profile in here. But as opposed to pdfToolbox 8.0, in 8.1, that multi-channel profile that I have in here is actually used. Now, I have another file here that shows the split into multiple channels very nicely. That's, I believe, one of these should be this one, the one I first opened. So same story. If I look at what I have in here, and I already saved this as a 5N file. So if I look at this, you'll see that it actually did move the correct color to the correct plate here as well. So like I said, the preview part of this is a little bit difficult on across a webinar, but remember that if you have a PDFX5N file, if you have a file that was prepared for a multi-channel workflow, that now you get the ability to preview that document and do on-screen proofing if you want of that document. Of course, that would require that you also have a decent and calibrated monitor and that you're looking at that under the right conditions. Okay, let's move on to the next point. And like I said in the beginning, this is a very, very geeky point, but I think you will appreciate what the practical advantages of this could be. And knowing the crowd I have during these webinars, you probably will also appreciate the fact that it's very geeky. So we're talking about spot color here, and there is a very long-standing problem that exists that is captured or caught in all of the pre-flight profiles and so on, but that was a little bit difficult to fix. The problem is that, as you know, Pantone Colors, for example, come by paper type. I can have a Pantone 123U, and that is typically has an alternate color space that simulates how that will look on uncoated paper, and then I have a Pantone 123C that does the same but for coated paper, and there are plenty more variants along these examples. And of course, you only want one of those, and detecting that is not very difficult. You can see, you can have a pre-flight profile that says if anything isn't using the C, the coated variant, for example, then give me a pre-flight error. That has always been very easy. However, is it possible to globally change spot colors? And well, in order to talk about that, what I'm going to do is go into fix-ups, and I already have that open. And if I look at fix-ups, if I create a new one very quickly, and we say spots, so you have a way to make spot color names consistent in, and that helps for some things. However, if I look for the map color, map spot and process color. However, what is a little bit difficult is that I can search for a color and then I can choose with what I want to replace it. And here in the search, I can use regular expressions. So let's say that I have this 123 uncoated, and I want to change that into Pantone 123, David, 123 coated. Then this is something I've always been able to do. This is relatively easy. I look for any spot color with the name 123U, and I change it to 123C. I can even write a regular expression that allows me to search for anything that has a Pantone a number and then a U at the end. But the problem is there was no way that I could make a general rule to say anything that ends on U, change that into C, because the regular expression only works in here in the source color name field, and it doesn't have anything to do with the destination color name. Now in PDF Toolbox 8.1, that has changed. And the way that has changed, and I know this is very small, I'll show you this in a little bit more detail, but the way this has been changed is that what you have in the source color name can actually also be used now in the destination color names. If I look at what I have in the source and in the destination field of that fix-up, you'll see that there is a very long regular expression at the top, and I have something relatively simple at the bottom. Now, regular expressions, and this is where the geekiness comes in, regular expressions have something called back references, and that is a way to search for things and remember parts of what you searched for, and then reuse that later. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, look at these red brackets that I have. These search for the word Pantone, and the fact that I have this this question mark I in front of it says, look for Pantone, but do it in a case-insensitive way. So whether it's Pantone in caps or in uppercase or lowercase, it doesn't matter. Find the word Pantone however it's written. Now, by placing it in between these brackets, I'm telling the regular expression search engine to remember what it found. So if it finds the word Pantone with a capital P and then the rest lowercase, then it will remember that word. And in my destination color field, I can use $1 to repeat what it found in there. So in this example, if it found the word Pantone, in my destination color field, it will say Pantone. Now, the same thing for the number. This long expression that I have here, this whole thing in between these green brackets, searches for a number, 1, 2, 3, or 8, 9, or whatever you have in there. It's looking for that kind of setup. And again, I capture what is found, and I can replace that then afterwards. And then to end it, I don't take the actual C or U, the letter that I have at the end of the Pantone name. I don't repeat that. I simply put C in the destination field. So if we look at that in PDF Toolbox, and there is actually a new fix-up in PDF Toolbox 8.1. It has the V8.1 suffix at the end. If I look at this, you'll see that same thing that I showed you before. You have the long regular expression. You can see the brackets in there. Of course, it doesn't have color in here. That was just me in the slide trying to make it a little bit more easy to see. But it does have the brackets in here. And so it captures this information, and then that information comes back below. Now, what does that mean? Well, let me give you a demo. This is a document, and it's a very nice document. It's a document talking about Tucana, which is a Callas OEM, as you know. And what is nice about this one right now is not that it's not its content, but the fact that there is an insane amount of Pantone colors in here. And you can see that in many cases I have a C variant and I have a U variant of the same Pantone color. Okay. And also remark that it has Pantone written with a one capital P, and then the rest is lowercase. Now, if I take this new fix-up that I have in PDF Toolbox 8.1, and let me save this on my desktop. Okay. And now let's see individual separations. Oops. Did I do that right? Yep, individual separations, and what we get now is it's still a very long list of Pantone colors, but see that I only have the C variants. So the U variants, the uncoated variants that I had in there, have now automatically been remapped to the C variant. So that's actually quite useful if you have these types of documents. Now, what I explained at the beginning is that these what I have in this fix-up, so this whole thing that I have in this fix-up remembers exactly the text that it captures from that Pantone color. So if I go to another file, we'll go to this one. It looks the same, but you'll see that the spot colors are actually quite different. So again, I have C and U spot colors, but you can see that the word Pantone is now written in all kinds of different ways as well, right? Okay. So if I take this one and we run that fix-up on it, on the desktop, where did it go? Here, weird, there. And if I open this one and look at the separations, then you'll see that all of the U variants are gone, just as before. So it replaced U by C in every case. But it did remember the actual writing of the word Pantone. Because I'm using these back references, whatever it finds in that initial string is simply copied to the target field. And that's why I'm ending up with that. Now, it doesn't have to be that way. If I create a duplicate of that fix-up, which is what I've done here, there's two obvious things that you could change. So the first thing is, in my original fix-up, I had this. Take whatever is in the first set of brackets, then follow that with a space, and whatever is in the second set of brackets, and then follow it by C. There are two obvious things that you could change. First of all, of course, this doesn't have to be C. I could just as easily convert everything to the U variant. And secondly, if I don't like this these strange ways of writing the word Pantone, then I can simply replace this with the correct writing of the word Pantone that I want, and save that. And now I could run this on the file that I have open. We'll put that on our desktop, and we're going to overwrite that. Yep, and so if I now look at what I have in here, so in this case, it changed it to U because that's what I said. And remark that now it didn't remember the actual writing, the way of the writing of the word Pantone, because I didn't use a back reference for that one. But instead, it has the correctly written word Pantone all across. So in all of those cases where you want to capture a group of Pantone colors or a group of other colors, it's not limited to Pantone, it would work for HKS or anything else that you come up with. But if you can capture a group of Pantone colors with this particular with this regular expression by simply adding brackets around the parts that you want to remember, and by using these $123 items, you can reuse what was found in the original name and write a more global color change. And this also works for layers, by the way. Those are the two fix-ups where it has been implemented so far. If there is any other place where you think this would be very useful, then let us know. But we started with the obvious ones, and that would be layer names, and then it would be spot colors. So anything where you have a source and you want to reuse parts of that source name into a destination name. Of course, the $2 refers to the second pair of brackets. If you insert 4 pairs of brackets, then you could use $1 through $4 in that destination color name field. So this is very, very useful in some cases. Okay, so that was the spot color bits. And there are actually, and maybe I should see if I can, I'll show that at the end. There are actually a bunch of websites out there that can help you to write regular expressions and experiment with those if you haven't used them before. There's a bunch of good books out there. The subject is actually, regular expressions are actually complex enough that you can write a full book about it. But there are a number of nice websites that let you experiment until you found really what you were looking for. So like I said, there is a new fix-up in version 8.1. You can use that as is. If you use it as is, it will take all Pantone spot colors and convert them to their C or coated variant, but you can duplicate that and make your own out of it. Just remember, as I always say, to duplicate it so that you don't mess up the default fix-up that is embedded in case you break something and want to go back to the source. Now, talking about breaking stuff, go back to the presentation for a sec. Talking about breaking stuff, when I give training for pdfToolbox, a reasonable part of the training is usually spent on trying to show people how to create some order in the chaos that can that can be caused by the high amount of profiles and fix-ups and checks and all types of other configuration data in pdfToolbox. And I always point out favorites and workspace and using your own prefix in front of all of that stuff and so on. But in reality, all of that is well, it's not really a good way to deal with that. And I think pdfToolbox 8.1, if you've ever encountered that problem, pdfToolbox 8.1 will become your friend very, very quickly. Why? Well, because we fixed this problem, I think. So the problem where you have lots of default profiles and checks and fix-ups, when you import and or create new ones, it creates more of those. And how do you find the ones that you're interested in? All of those things. And the solution in 8.1 is called libraries, pdfToolbox libraries. And it wasn't in version 8 because it was not ready to ship when version 8 came out. Under the hood, you don't know that, but under the hood, there were already some preparations for it. But now in 8.1, it is ready, and I'll show you how it works. But the basic principle is that a library gives you a collection of checks, fixes, and profiles. What is in that collection is your choice. You can create your own libraries, and pdfToolbox makes it very easy to switch between libraries and put stuff in them and so on. So it gives you a way to only see those items that you are interested in at that point in time, and to easily switch to a different set at another time. If you switch from one project to another, if you switch from one client to another, if you want to test something and you want to isolate that from your production work, all of those scenarios are really covered. So let's get to it. This is pdfToolbox 8.1, of course, and what you have in here is a very long list of, in this case, fix-ups and then profiles and so on. Now, look at this little thingy that appears here, Calas pdfToolbox default. This is the indication that I have more than one library. And if you don't have this on your copy of pdfToolbox, it is because you have not created more than one library yet. And this little piece of user interface lets me switch between libraries. So you don't have this. How do you go about creating your own libraries? Well, if you go to the Action button, remember all good things in the Profiles panel are in the Action button here at the top right. If you have this Action button, there is a new section in here, Manage Libraries, Export and Import Library. Okay. If you click Manage Libraries, it will show you a whole new window. And in that window, you have a bunch of categories. And these categories are basically all of the different pieces of configuration files that you can think of. It's not limited to profiles, checks, and fix-ups, but it's also all of the other things that you might need in those. As an example, in some fix-ups, you use output intents. In some checks and fix-ups, you use ICC profiles. Color conversion policies, font substitution policies. So all of these things are used inside one of those checks or fixes. And what pdfToolbox 8.1 allows you to do is in the library section at the top, it allows you to create different libraries, right? And once I have created at least 2 of those, so you always get the default one, as soon as you create at least 1 additional library, you get this nice user interface here, and you also get that nice user interface in the switchboard, okay? And that user interface allows you to switch very easily between those different libraries. Now, if I go to the well, let's say VIP event in Antwerp, you'll notice a couple of things. First of all, my selection of fix-ups has changed, and if I go to checks and profiles, you can see that I have a lot less profiles than I had before. And I can prove that by simply going back to pdfToolbox default. Now I have my full list, right? So each of those libraries shows only those profiles and checks and fix-ups that you put in them yourself. And that allows you to put things together. For example, I created this VIP event library with all of the things I was going to need during my presentations at that partner event. I have a support library, and I switch to the support library whenever I import profiles, checks, fix-ups from customers or from resellers. And that way they stay isolated from any of the other stuff that I'm doing. Right? So you can create these libraries, and you can create as many of them as you want, and then you can put only the things in there that you need. And also notice that you can assign, you don't have to do this. And frankly, this color is, even though it's purple, it's ugly. But you can assign your own color to a library. And that's also very, very easy. You go to Manage Libraries, and then you can select a library in there. And for each of those libraries, if you click Edit or double click on it, you can give that library a name, you can give it a description, you can lock it if you want, which can be very useful if it's a production library, for example, and you don't want to inadvertently change that. And you can change the color of that library, and that simply throws up a color picker at this point. Now, for the really geeky under you, I've heard that what is used under the hood is actually some kind of skin system, if I'm correct, the Firefox skin system. So you could go look in the preferences and come up with a much nicer skin than what I have on here. But even if you just select a color, it gives you a very quick visual identification of the fact that you are working with a particular library. Right? And that's really helpful, because otherwise you start doing things in the wrong place. Now, what can I do with those libraries? Well, you can create them as I've done so far. You can export a library and import a library, and this is quite nice. Exporting it means that all of the information in that one library is exported into a file. And it's exported into a single file, which is basically an archive. And then I can take that single file, give it to someone else, and import it on the other side. And all of a sudden, I have all the same settings on the other station. So if you're working on your copy of profiles and you want to move them from your staging environment into a production environment, for example, export the library, import it in the production environment, and you have the exact same information there. The other thing you can do, of course, if you go to Manage Libraries, besides managing your libraries themselves, I can go into Fix-ups, and then I could see, well, which of these do I have in my default? Which of those do I have in this VIP event library? And there was just I just got a new one, an 8.1 fix-up for the Pantone colors that we discussed. Well, if I also want to show that during my sessions there, I can simply move that in to that library over there. If I move a profile from one library to another, then all of the fixes and checks that that profile depends on are going to be moved automatically for me, right? If I move a fix and that fix uses an HTML template, displays content fix, then the correct HTML templates are also automatically going to be moved into the library on the right. So pdfToolbox takes care of the consistency in here. You simply select the fix-ups and the checks and the profiles that you want, move them to the correct library, and you're done. And by the way, this purple line that you see here again reflects the fact that I've given this purple color to that particular library. So if I switch to a different one, I'm going to see the different color in there, right? So in all possible places, you get an indication of what library you are working with. And after that, it's really very, very simple to use. You switch to the library that you want. That immediately gives you all of the profiles that you want, and all of the checks and all of the fix-ups. You select that and you run it. It's as simple as that. If I want to import something into pdfToolbox, you know that you can import a profile by simply this is not a profile, but I'll do it anyway, by simply dragging it on top of the window. Well, if I switch to the VIP event library and I drag something on top of it, it's going to be imported into this library. So it works very, very intuitively, and all you have to do to import it somewhere else is go to one of my other libraries and import it there. Why do I have that in the switchboard as well? Well, it's the same thing, because it will take all of the information that you have in the switchboard and then move it into that correct library, including the actions, including what you have in the workspace, and so on and so on. Okay, so that's it's actually a small topic if you want, but I think it's a very useful topic in pdfToolbox 8.1. If you work with pdfToolbox quite a bit and you want to keep things organized. Okay, that's it for me. Let me see if there are any questions. If you have questions that you haven't asked yet, then don't hesitate to answer. Axel, if you think that regular expressions with back references are not geeky, then, well, I guess you're into regular expressions then. But I agree with you. It's actually a very nice feature, and it's going to be really useful if you work with spot colors or if you work with layers, especially for those things. Earl, if you change something from U to C, then you're changing the color. It's an entirely different thing. That is correct, but the question is, how are you producing these files? See, if you're getting a file in with lots of different spot colors and you're sending that to a workflow where you print it with spot color, then the alternate value in there is really not important. What you're concerned about is the name of the spot color. If I have a spot color workflow and I have a 123C and a 123U, normally they would end up on different plates unless I do something special about that. This is a way to do something special about it. So no, the lap numbers are not changed. It simply keeps what is in there. It simply changes the name in there. It works automatically with the server version in order to normalize an entire production. Yes, absolutely. This is a fix-up. So if you include this fix-up into a profile, then you can have this work automatically. So again, to recap that, if this spot color issue with C and U and all the other suffixes, you can typically that is already detected by preflight, and that was possible for a long time. But the fix is typically much more difficult. This gives you a much cleverer way to fix that. Okay, that's apart from lots of praise for regexes from multiple people. I think that's the end of what I wanted to show you. So you have this PDFX5N support that might be important for you, especially when you're in digital print or in large formats. You have support for back references in regular expressions. If you work with spot colors, if you work with layer names, then this is a really nice thing, and it will make my life easier in some of the projects that I've written fix-ups for. And then you have these libraries, and perhaps that's the single biggest thing in pdfToolbox 8.1 is the fact that you can now have multiple collections of profiles and checks and fixes and change between them at will in pdfToolbox Desktop, which will help you keep things in order. That's it. I think I came to the end of what I wanted to say, and I came to the end of the questions. Thank you very much for joining this webinar. It's good to see that so many of you came out for a small update webinar. Enjoy what you've learned and what we've put in pdfToolbox 8.1. And as always, if you have feature requests, things that you think don't work good enough in pdfToolbox or could be better, do not hesitate to tell us. And you can tell us by simply sending us an email, either to info@4ps or calasoftware.com, or support at either of those, or simply to me if you have my email address. That's absolutely fine as well. If you have any other questions that you would like to talk about privately, just send me an email or give me a call. I am always open for that, and we can talk about specifically what interests you then. Thank you very much, and have a great rest of the day.